My sister hurled a slice of cake at my face and called me a pathetic loser during a family dinner, so I finally cut her off financially. What happened after that blew the lid off everything. For the past 5 years, I've basically played the role of my sister's personal ATM. I'm 32, she's 29, and I've been footing the bill for just about every part of her life. Let's call her Tessa. And I'm not talking about the occasional, "Hey, can I borrow $20 for gas?" kind of deal. I mean full-scale financial backing, her rent, utilities, groceries, clothes for her kids, school stuff, you name it. I was the walking, talking budget for her entire life. I work at a factory that cranks out car parts. It's not some fancy job, but it pays decent, especially if you put in crazy amounts of overtime, which I've basically been doing non-stop ever since Tessa's husband walked out. Social life? What's that? I haven't had a real vacation since 2019. Most weekends, I'm either picking up extra shifts or over at Tessa's place fixing something that's broken. It wasn't always like this, though. She used to be married to a guy I'll call Shane. He seemed like a decent enough guy, worked steady as an electrician. They looked like your average couple and even had a daughter together, my niece, Maisie. She's 7 now and honestly a pretty awesome kid. But Tessa's always had a temper, like she's calm 1 minute and blowing up the next. She'd lose it over the dumbest stuff, screaming at Shane because he grabbed the wrong cereal brand or didn't answer her text fast enough. So yeah, it didn't shock anyone when he finally had enough and left when Maisie was just 2. I still remember that call, Tessa sobbing into the phone around 11 p.m., ranting about how Shane had abandoned them. Later on, I learned he'd been telling her for months he was unhappy, but she just brushed him off. After the split, Tessa couldn't swing the rent on her own. Her job at the mall paid next to nothing, and the cost of daycare was through the roof. That's when my parents, Frank and Elaine, should have stepped up, right? But nope. They were too busy enjoying their golden years. Ever since Dad started collecting his pension, they'd been living it up, traveling for months at a time and remodeling their house with one of those over-the-top kitchens you see on HGTV. When I suggested maybe they help Tessa out, being her parents and all, Mom just gave me that smug smile and said, "You're young and capable, Logan. You don't have any real responsibilities. Tessa needs help now." So like a fool I agreed to help her out, just until she got back on her feet. That was back in 2020. Fast forward to now, 2025, and guess what? I'm still footing the bill. It started off as just helping with her rent. Then winter hit, and suddenly I was paying utilities too because the electric bill was brutal. Then it was groceries, because Maisie needs healthy food to grow. After that, it turned into buying clothes, school supplies, paying for after-school programs, getting her a laptop for first grade, even furniture, because the old stuff reminded her of Shane. It just never ended. Every time I tried to suggest maybe dialing it back a little, Tessa pulled the same tired tricks. Sometimes she'd break down crying about how tough single mom life is. Other times she'd go on the defensive, accusing me of being stingy. But her go-to move? Guilt-tripping me with Maisie. "Oh, so you want your niece to go without the basics?" she'd say. And she never missed a chance to remind me how lucky I am not to have a family to support. Here's the thing, I've always been the one trying to fix everything in this family. Maybe it's middle child syndrome. I crack jokes when things get tense. I try to keep the peace. I hate conflict. So whenever I'd hand over money I knew I'd never see again, I'd try to lighten the mood with a sarcastic comment like, "Well, there goes my yacht." Or, "Guess I'd better start buying lottery tickets." Everyone would laugh, the awkwardness would pass, but I'd still be broke. I actually had plans once. I was saving up for a down payment on a house, had about $15,000 set aside, until Tessa's life blew up. That savings? Gone in the first year of helping her. I thought about enrolling in some community college classes to maybe move up at work or switch careers. But I couldn't afford the tuition. Even tried dating now and then, but it's hard to ask someone out when you're counting pennies because you're covering 2 households. My buddy Jesse keeps telling me I'm being taken advantage of. "She's a grown woman," he says. "She needs to get it together like everyone else." And yeah, he's got a point. But it's hard when there's a kid involved. Maisie didn't choose any of this, and I love that little girl. She's smart, funny, and draws me these cute pictures of dinosaurs and top hats. How do you say no to that? How do you let her go without when you know she's innocent in all this? Uncle Harlan's the only one in the family who seems to see through Tessa's crap. At Thanksgiving last year, he pulled me aside and said, "Kid, you're setting yourself on fire to keep someone warm who's just gonna complain it's not hot enough." Harlan's always been the blunt one. He even offered to loan me some money, but I turned him down. This mess is already too tangled. I didn't want to drag more family into it financially. Then about 8 months ago, Tessa finally landed a solid job, admin assistant at an insurance office. Full-time benefits, the whole package. I thought maybe, just maybe, the tides were turning. Maybe I could scale back, cover just Maisie's stuff or part of the rent. But nope. The requests kept rolling in, sometimes more than before. Apparently, starting a new job comes with transition costs. She needed a new wardrobe, lunch meetings, networking dinners, basically, a whole bunch of stuff that sounded a lot like, "I want to shop and eat out." Meanwhile, I'm still driving my beat-up 2008 Honda with nearly 190,000 miles on it. I buy groceries from the bargain stores, and I use my phone until it dies completely because I can't afford to replace it. But I kept paying. Because I'm a sucker, I guess. And saying no feels damn near impossible when you've been saying yes for so long. I think deep down, the real reason I kept handing Tessa money wasn't just habit, it was fear. Fear of what would happen to Maisie if I suddenly pulled the plug. Fear of disappointing the family. I've always been C. Eliable Logan. The guy who patches every leak with a smile and a joke, even when the whole damn boat's sinking. But after Tessa started that new office job, things got weird. Not all at once. Just little oddities, popping up here and there. Stuff that didn't quite fit together. Her money issues? Somehow got worse. Which made no sense. Back when she worked part-time at that mall kiosk, I got why she needed help. Barely made enough to cover a week's worth of groceries. But now, full-time gig, benefits, steady hours, she should have been doing better. Yet she kept coming to me for cash. In fact, it felt like she was asking more. One week, she called me in a panic because she couldn't make rent. Something about needing to pay for Maisie's school pictures instead. Those run, what, $50? Her rent's over $1,000. Math wasn't adding up. Then I started seeing new stuff in her apartment. Not full-on luxury, but not cheap either. New throw pillows. Fancy makeup brands lined up on her bathroom counter. One of those robot vacuums buzzing around the floor. I remember staring at it like, "See, Yuli? You can't afford your light bill, but you've got a robot to sweep up crumbs?" But the biggest red flag slapped me across the face at a Sunday dinner. Tessa walked in wearing designer shoes, real high-end ones. I only recognized the brand because a girl I dated once obsessed over them. I knew those shoes were at least $300. I raised an eyebrow, and she hit me with, "Oh, they were on sale." Sure. Maybe marked down to $250. That's still insane when I'm over here trying to stretch my work boots another 6 months from Walmart's clearance rack. Then her behavior started changing. She used to just toss her phone on the couch like everyone else. Now, she carried it with her everywhere, bathroom included. The thing would ding and she'd jump like it was rigged with explosives. Once, I walked in on her texting, and she flipped the phone face down so fast you'd think she was hiding state secrets. Her schedule got strange, too. She used to always be home with Maisie in the evenings. Then suddenly, she needed me to babysit, again and again. Always last minute. "Emergency work meeting." Or, "Girls' night, Logan, please, I need this for my mental health." Look, I get needing a break, especially as a single mom, but 2 or 3 times a week? That's not decompressing. That's avoiding. Then Maisie started saying things that didn't match Tessa's "we're broke" narrative. One afternoon, I picked her up from school, and she told me about this restaurant where the chef cooked the food in front of you, definitely a hibachi joint. When I asked who took her, she said, "Mommy did. Last week." Funny. Last week, Tessa told me they'd been eating ramen every night, so I sent her grocery money. But apparently there was room in the budget for shrimp flying through the air and onion volcanoes? Hibachi's easily $70 for 2 people. Another time, Maisie was messing with my phone and accidentally opened my Amazon app. She pointed at a toy and went, "I have that. Mommy got it for my good grades." I checked the price, $40. Not outrageous, but not exactly something someone supposedly skipping meals should be splurging on. That's when I started checking Tessa's social media. She wasn't outright bragging, but she was tagging herself at places, trendy restaurants, wineries, even a concert venue. Always with coworkers I'd never heard of. New job, new crew, I guessed. But when I casually asked, "Hey, how was that Italian place Tuesday?" her whole vibe shifted. "You stalking my Instagram now?" she snapped. "Wow, Logan. Controlling much?" I backed off like I always do, cracked a joke. "Just making conversation, sis. Glad you're out there making friends." But the seed had been planted. I couldn't stop wondering, where was all my money really going? If she could swing girls' nights, hibachi, fancy shoes, and Amazon sprees, then why couldn't she cover rent? None of it made sense. Even Uncle Harlan noticed. We were out back helping Dad fix the deck. Well, Harlan and I were fixing it while Dad barked directions from a lawn chair, and Harlan just came right out with it. "You still bankrolling Tessa's life?" I mumbled something like, "You know how it is. Family helps family." Harlan just shook his head. "That girl's taking you for a ride, Logan. You don't see it 'cause you don't wanna. But the rest of us? We see it plain as day." That hit me hard. Because I knew, deep down, he was right. Even my buddy Jesse had stopped inviting me out. He got sick of hearing, "I can't afford it," while watching me Venmo hundreds to Tessa like clockwork. I tried talking to my parents. We were at Dad's birthday dinner, and Tessa had just asked me the day before for $800 to fix her car, which I was 90% sure was a lie. While we were in the kitchen alone, I asked Mom, "Don't you think it's weird that Tessa still needs so much help? Even with her new job?" She gave me that look, the one where she thinks I'm the problem. "She's a single mother, Logan. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to raise a child? You're lucky. You only have yourself to worry about." There it was again. That word, lucky. I'm lucky to be overworked, exhausted, and bleeding cash for someone who treats me like a debit card on legs. Meanwhile, everyone else gets to enjoy their lives guilt-free. But what really pushed me over the edge was something small. Maisie let it slip during dinner one night. She said, "The delivery man comes to our house a lot now. Mommy says it's 'cause she deserves nice things." Nice things. While I'm wondering if I can afford to fix my car's AC or if I'll be sweating through another summer. At that point, I didn't know exactly what was going on. Maybe she had a shopping addiction. Maybe she was hiding debt. Or maybe she was lying to me. Whatever it was, I knew I had to find out. So, the next time she asked me to babysit last minute, said it was a work event, I said yes, like always. I wasn't planning to snoop. That's not who I am. But when I got to her place that night, something just felt off. First thing I noticed that night was how dressed up Tessa was. And I mean really dressed up, for what she claimed was just some work thing on a Thursday night. She was wearing this tight black dress I'd never seen before, full glam makeup, hair done up like she was headed to prom, and perfume that didn't smell like that fruity stuff she used to grab from the mall. This was expensive. You could smell the price tag on it. I asked her about it, and she got all snappy, like, "Some of us care about our appearance, Logan. Not everyone wants to look like they just rolled out of bed." For the record, I was wearing clean jeans and a decent t-shirt. Not a fashion icon, sure, but I wasn't exactly a slob either. Whatever. The second thing that felt off was Maisie's reaction. When Tessa said she had to leave for a work event, Maisie tilted her head and asked, "Is Chase going to be there?" And just like that, Tessa's whole face went pale. I mean ghost white. Then she barked at Maisie to go brush her teeth, right now, and kind of shoved me into the kitchen like we had urgent business to discuss. Suddenly we had to go over bedtime routines in detail. But I'm not an idiot. "Who's Chase?" I asked. She didn't miss a beat. "Just a coworker. We've got this team building thing." Yeah, right. I've known Tessa since she was in diapers, and she's got this tell when she's lying, she fidgets with her earrings. That night, she was practically yanking the thing off her ear. Still, I let it go. Maisie came back into the room, and I didn't want to stir up drama in front of her. Tessa bolted after that, saying not to wait up since these work things could run late. Once Maisie was settled with a movie, I figured I'd keep my eyes open. Not full-on snooping, just paying attention. When I hung Maisie's sweater in the closet, I noticed a men's leather jacket hanging inside. Definitely not something Tessa would wear, and not even close to Shane's size. He was always kind of scrawny. This thing was extra large. In the bathroom, I spotted men's body wash in the shower, the fancy kind that smells like expensive cologne and costs more than what I spend on lunch. There was also a men's razor sitting on the counter, like it lived there. But the biggest clue was in the living room. While Maisie was off changing into pajamas, I noticed a few pieces of mail on the coffee table. One of them was addressed to Chase Donovan. Same address as Tessa's apartment. That wasn't just some coworker. Mail doesn't get sent to your buddy's place unless you're there a lot. So I waited until Maisie came back, then casually asked, "Hey Pops, who's Chase again? One of Mommy's friends from work?" She looked at me like I had 3 heads. "No, Uncle Logan," she said in that tone only kids can pull off, like I was the dumbest person alive. "Chase is Mommy's boyfriend. He sleeps over a lot and makes pancakes." Boom. There it was. My sister had a whole boyfriend, who apparently spent the night often enough to have his mail sent there, and she'd never said a word. I tried to stay calm. "Does Chase buy you stuff?" I asked, keeping it light. "Sometimes," she said, not really paying attention. She was focused on picking a movie. "He got me the robot that cleans the floor. And he took me and Mommy to the place where they cook in front of you." So this guy, this Chase, was buying her that fancy vacuum, taking them out to hibachi, had a nice car, and was clearly spending money on them. Meanwhile, I was still the one paying Tessa's rent, utilities, and groceries because she couldn't afford them. I felt sick. For 5 years, I'd been cutting corners, skipping nights out, ignoring my own needs just to help her keep the lights on, thinking she was barely getting by. And the whole time, she had this boyfriend spending money like it was Monopoly cash. It got worse. Maisie told me he'd been around for 6 months. He took them to the zoo the same weekend Tessa told me she couldn't afford Maisie's field trip. He even took them to a water park, the same weekend she hit me up for emergency money, because her hours got cut. I didn't let it show. We finished the movie, I read her a bedtime story, and tucked her in like everything was fine. But inside I was fuming. After she fell asleep, I looked around more carefully. Still not tearing through the place, just checking things that were out in the open. In Tessa's closet, I found shopping bags with the tags still on them, designer stuff, expensive stuff. There was even a brand new iPad in one of the bags. All bought in the last couple months while I was over here eating off-brand ramen and skipping oil changes to save cash. In her nightstand I found brochures for weekend getaways and a card, handwritten, that said, "Happy 6 months, babe. Can't wait for many more. Love, see?" 6 freaking months. She'd been in a relationship that long and was still draining me dry. I pulled out my phone and started snapping pictures. The jacket. The mail. The receipts. The card. I wanted proof, because I knew she tried to gaslight me the minute I brought it up. Then I checked her Instagram again. Still no pictures of this guy directly, but once I really looked at her girls' night photos, I saw him in the background. Same dude. You could see his hand on her waist in one of them. Not tagged, but there. Subtle, Tessa. C.il subtle. I was still sitting there, scrolling through her feed, trying to process everything, when I heard her key in the door. It was just after midnight. I quickly put everything back and plopped onto the couch, trying to look like I'd just been watching TV. She walked in looking all dolled up still, a little tipsy, and clearly surprised to see me still awake. "Oh. You're still here. How was Maisie?" "Great," I said, keeping my tone flat. "We had a nice talk. She told me all about Chase." The look on her face when I said Maisie already spilled the beans, man, that was almost worth every dollar I'd sunk into her over the years. At first, she denied it completely. "He's just a friend." Then she tried to downplay it. "We've only been seeing each other a few weeks." And finally, when I just stared at her in silence, she gave in. Okay, fine. It's been over 6 months. But what really got me was her trying to justify hiding it. You're so judgmental, Logan. I knew you'd blow it out of proportion. Blow it out of proportion? She'd been using my money for emergencies while going on dates with this dude. It's not like that, she said. Chase is going through a rough patch financially, and I've been helping him here and there. That's when I lost it. She was using my money to support her boyfriend. Let me get this straight, I said, trying not to yell. I've been working overtime, busting my back just so you can keep your lights on, and meanwhile you're giving that money to some grown man who ought to be paying his own bills? She started crying, Tessa's signature move when cornered. Waterworks instead of answers. Then came the guilt trip. I didn't understand. Chase was amazing with Maisie. For the first time since Shane left, she was happy. And apparently, I was ruining it all for her. That's when I hit my limit. No more, Tessa. No more money, no more bailouts, no more acting like I'm your personal bank account. You can figure out your bills the same way the rest of us do. She called me every name in the book: selfish, heartless, jealous. That last one stung more than I'd like to admit. Maybe I was jealous. It's tough to meet someone when you're always broke and exhausted from taking care of someone else's life. I left her apartment thinking that was the end of it. Man, was I wrong. Next morning, my phone rings. It's my parents. Guess who called them at 1 a.m, bawling about how I'd attacked her. I got the full lecture, about how family sticks together, how I was being cruel, how Maisie shouldn't suffer because I was overreacting. I tried to explain. I told them about Chase. They brushed it off like I'd said she bought herself a sweater. So she has a boyfriend. Big deal. She deserves some happiness. Did everyone just forget that I'd been through hell too? That I'd put my own life on pause for 5 years? All week, Tessa kept texting me, rent's due, electric bill's late, Maisie needs this or that. I ignored every one of them. My parents kept leaving me voicemails dripping with guilt. I ignored those too. I was finally drawing a line in the sand, and damn, it felt good. Then came Saturday. I was folding laundry when the doorbell rang. It was Tessa, holding one of those fancy bakery cake boxes. Can I come in? She asked, looking more sorry than I'd seen her in years. Against my better judgment, I let her in. She set the cake on my table and launched into this clearly rehearsed apology about not telling me about Chase, how she understood why I was upset, and maybe we could work something out, like me still helping with rent until she got things figured out. I just stared at her. You seriously still don't get it, do you? This isn't just about Chase. It's about all the lying, all the manipulation. You used me, Tessa. For years. That's not fair. She shot back, already getting defensive again. I really did need help with some things. Yeah? Not the romantic getaways, not the iPad, not the anniversary gifts for your boyfriend. You have no idea what I've given up for you. Oh please, she muttered. It wasn't all your money. Don't exaggerate. That actually made me laugh. Tessa, I've given you over $35,000 in the past 5 years. I did the math. Her eyes went wide. I don't think she'd ever bothered to add it up. I'm not even asking for it back, I said. It's gone. But I'm done. You have a job. You have a boyfriend. Figure it out. That's when she motioned to the cake box. I brought your favorite, carrot cake, from that place you love. Peace offering. I opened it. Sure enough, it was a fancy carrot cake. But something felt off. I noticed some writing on it, partially hidden by the box lid. I moved it aside. It read, Happy 6-month anniversary C. And the rest was smudged. It hit me immediately. This is for Chase, isn't it? Today's your anniversary with him. Her face turned beet red. Well, yeah, she admitted. But I thought we could share it. I'm trying to include you in my life. Include me? You bought this cake for him, didn't you? And what, he bailed, so now I get the leftovers. Chase didn't cancel, she snapped. He's meeting me later. So you thought you'd butter me up with my favorite cake, bought with money I gave you for the electric bill, so I'd keep footing the rest of your life while you go celebrate with him? It's not like that, she yelled. God, you're impossible. This is why I didn't tell you about him. You're so damn judgmental and controlling. Controlling? I've let you walk all over me for 5 years. This isn't control, it's finally putting my foot down. Fine, she screamed. Keep being a bitter, lonely loser jerk. Chase loves me, something no one can say about you. That one hit harder than I wanted it to. I stared at her coldly. If Chase loves you so much, congrats. Sounds like you've finally found someone else to leech off of. Hope he knows he's your new ATM. Might want to check if his credit score can survive the Tessa hurricane before you lock it down. That's when she snapped. She grabbed the cake and smashed it right in my face. Carrot cake flew everywhere, into my eyes, up my nose, all over my shirt. The plate hit hard enough to split my lip. Go to hell, Logan! She screamed. You think you're so much better than everyone else. At least Chase doesn't live like a pathetic loser with no life outside of work. I just stood there, cake sliding down my face, too stunned to even move. Here I was, 29 years old, getting a dessert facial from my grown sister like we were two kids fighting over the last juice box. She slung her purse over her shoulder, stomping toward the door like she was the wrong party in all this. But before leaving, she spun around and threw out the low blow. Don't expect to see Maisie again if this is how you're gonna be. And that right there? That was it for me. The line she finally crossed. She was using my niece, the one person I'd hung in there for all these years, as leverage. My voice came out low, steady, colder than I felt even with frosting running into my shirt. Get out. And don't come back until you're ready to act like an adult. When the door slammed behind her, I just stood in my kitchen staring at the mess. Carrot cake on the floor, on the cabinets, in my hair. 5 years of doing without so she wouldn't have to, and all I got for it was a busted lip and a cake to the face. I showered, scrubbing icing out of places frosting doesn't belong, and that's when it hit me, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. If Tessa wanted to go dirty, well, I could get my hands muddy too. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree with messages from my parents. Turns out Tessa had already worked her magic, calling them in tears and painting herself as the poor, abused victim of her cruel brother. But this time, I didn't stay silent. I snapped a picture of my face, still red, lips split from the plate, and dropped it in the family group chat with a short message. This is what your daughter did when I said I wouldn't pay her bills anymore. Still think I'm the bad guy? Dad's reply came in fast. You know how emotional she gets. You shouldn't have pushed her buttons. C.I'd. Classic. She hurls baked goods at me like a lunatic, and somehow I pushed her buttons by, let's see, saying I didn't want to fund her life anymore. I tried laying out the facts again, about Chase, the lies, the shopping sprees, the trips, all of it paid for by me. But all I got back was the same tired excuse. Well, that's between her and her boyfriend. She deserves to be happy. Happy? At my expense? And did anyone remember I had a life too? Or tried to? Uncle Harlan was the only one who got it. He called me up not long after and said, You pressing charges? I wasn't, of course. As much as I wanted to, Tessa was still my sister. And Maisie didn't deserve to have her mom hauled off in handcuffs. But just hearing someone say what I was thinking out loud, it meant more than I expected. Meanwhile, Tessa was on a full-blown smear campaign. She told everyone who would listen that I'd abandoned her and Maisie because I was jealous of her boyfriend. She even posted some vague nonsense on Facebook about cutting off toxic family and finally knowing who really loves you. C.Ill subtle. I could have walked away then. Blocked her, disappeared, tried to patch up my bank account and rebuild what she drained out of me. But something in me shifted. I wasn't that guy anymore. I was done being the punching bag everyone expected to just smile and take it. A few days later, Uncle Harlan and I were eating burgers at a local dive when he looked up from his plate and asked, serious as anything, You figure out what you're gonna do next? 'Cause your sister's not gonna let this go. I shrugged. What can I do? The money's gone. Harlan smirked, the way he does when he knows something I don't. Maybe not, he said. I got a buddy named Marcus. Works at a legit debt collection agency, not the sketchy kind. You got records of everything? I nodded. Every penny. Kept a spreadsheet. Bank transfers, Venmo notes, text messages. Everything. 3 days later, I was sitting across from Marcus in his office, handing over a thick folder stuffed with receipts, statements, screenshots. He flipped through it, eyebrows rising higher with every page. So she claimed rent emergencies, he said, but was out buying $300 shoes. Yup. And taking her secret boyfriend to 5-star places. He pointed to a few highlighted texts I'd marked. One from Tessa said, "I swear I'll pay you back once I get on my feet." I'd replied, "You said that last month." Her response, "I mean it this time." "That's all I need," Marcus said, tapping the folder. "We'll take it from here." 2 days later, Tessa got the official notice. Amount owed, $39,423.27, interest included. Immediate payment requested. Legal action, credit reporting, and wage garnishment if she failed to respond. My phone rang 18 minutes after the delivery. Caller ID, Tessa. "You serious right now?" she screeched. Her voice was so high-pitched I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Hello to you too, sis," I said calmly. "You sent a debt collector after me?" "Well, you know what they say," I said, leaning back in my chair. "If someone throws cake in your face, hire a pro to collect what they owe you. Or something like that." "This isn't a joke. They're threatening my credit score." "Sounds serious," I said. "Maybe ask Mom and Dad for help. Or Chase. He seems to love how independent you are. Though I imagine he thinks you're financing your own life, not using your brother as a piggy bank." The screeching that followed was impressive. I let her vent for about 30 seconds, then cut in. "Look. You borrowed money. You didn't pay it back. That's a debt. Welcome to adulthood, Tessa." "They weren't loans," she shouted. "They were just family helping family." I couldn't help but chuckle. "Funny," I said, "'cause I've got about 50 texts that say otherwise." Click. She hung up. I sat back, grinning as I silenced my phone. I knew the family meltdown was about to hit full throttle, and sure enough, it did not disappoint. Within the hour, Mom and Dad had called a total of 17 times. I finally picked up while making myself a sandwich, calm as can be. "Have you completely lost your mind?" Dad shouted the moment I answered. No greeting. No concern. Just straight to DEFCON 1. "Hi, Dad. I'm doing all right, thanks for asking." "A debt collector? Against your own sister?" "Well, seeing as she's allergic to personal responsibility, I figured it was time to introduce her to professional responsibility." Mom jumped in next. "Logan, you need to call this off immediately. Tessa is distraught." "Yeah?" I replied, spreading mustard on my bread. So was I when she smashed cake in my face. And again when I realized she'd been spending her rent money on her secret boyfriend. "But please, go on, tell me again how I'm the villain here. This isn't the kind of man we raised you to be," Dad said, his voice all disappointed and heavy. "Oh really? You raised me to be a doormat?" That must have been the day I skipped class. And just like that, the conversation spiraled. They cycled through the usual tactics: guilt trips, emotional threats, pleading with family loyalty. The whole tired routine. "You know what's actually funny?" I finally said. "I'm the only one who's ever held Tessa accountable for anything. If you two had tried that sometime in the last 20 years, maybe we wouldn't be in this mess." Click. They hung up. I smiled. That was progress. The next day, Marcus gave me a call. He sounded like he was trying not to laugh. "Your sister and her boyfriend came into the office," he said. "And let me tell you, it was a show." "Let me guess," I said. "Crying? Yelling? Threats to call the cops?" "All of the above," Marcus replied. "But get this, after all that drama, the boyfriend pulled me aside and asked how much it would take to make this whole thing go away immediately." I almost dropped my phone. "You're kidding." "Nope." He seemed real stressed about her credit score, like he had something big planned that required clean credit. I told him a good faith payment would show seriousness. He wrote a check for $5,000 on the spot. I burst out laughing. "He what?" "Yep," Marcus said. "And they signed a payment plan for the rest. $500 a month until it's paid off. After our fee, you'll be getting about $350 a month. I hung up and immediately did a little victory dance around my living room. Best money I ever spent on a third party. Funny enough, Tessa's social media went real quiet after that. No more rants about toxic family. No more cryptic posts about being betrayed. Just silence. Sweet, peaceful silence. The first payment hit my account the next week. I used it to finally fix the AC in my car. It had been broken for 2 brutal summers. Month after that, I paid off one of my credit cards. Then I opened a savings account. A real one. My parents were still giving me the silent treatment, convinced I'd committed some unholy offense against the sacred bond of family. But Uncle Harlan? He couldn't stop laughing. They'll come around, he said while we were out fishing one Saturday. Or they won't. Either way, you're not broke anymore. And you know what? He was right. Best part of all? For the first time in 5 years, I walked into the grocery store and grabbed the good coffee, dark roast, full-bodied, not the cheap tin stuff, and didn't have to stop and think how many of Tessa's bills that money might have covered. Freedom, it turns out, tastes like premium dark roast. And just in case anyone's wondering, yes, hiring a debt collector can absolutely be legit, as long as you've got documentation. Text messages where someone clearly acknowledges a debt and promises repayment? That counts in most states. Just do your homework and keep your receipts, folks. Trust me on that.